That was the only agenda. To talk together, to be together. That was the goal and the destination. We began with an object, a word, amrit, which means nectar in Sanskrit. The sweet syrup the gods of India are always drunk on. Immortality is just a word that shines like brass, polished by the hands of my mother and my grandmother and her mother before her. Amrit. A drink, a miracle, a medicine, a red body. We drank the holy water and journeyed on. It was sweet and bitter at the same time. When we put our hands in our pockets, we found a netsuke, a hare with amber eyes carved in ivory. To the rising merchant class of Japan, who were not allowed to wear jewelry, the netsuke were once indispensable. That is, until the introduction of the cigarette, when this miniature art form became obsolete. And like the cigarette, the netsuke fit so neatly into the palm of one's hand. It pulled us into the world within a word with a centrifugal force. Once upon a time, a king walked through the palace gardens and passed by the youngest queen's apartments. She was a fine singer. Her voice in song called to him in breath, in air, in sound, carved in flight. We met across time zones. A diagonal line carved on a map that contained all our sunlit homes. Our rooms, with all their objects, are physical, visual, sonic, and material. The whole body and the chair, the whole body and the water jug, the whole body and Zoom. Here we met in a landscape of us. Here we did not meet the weather. Is this global pandemic the last step before paradise? What is paradise? Paradise is the memory of an experience we never had. This year, we expected many things to happen, mainly like Rama to travel, from the city to the port to the base of the hills. But like Sita, we were kidnapped, clutched away and held hostage until we became homesick in our own homes. The Ramayana, an ancient Indian epic narrative, portrays ideal characters. 24,000 metric verses which outline the ideal father, the ideal son, the ideal mother, the ideal wife, the ideal servant, the ideal king, the ideal war, and the ideal victory aided by an army of monkeys. Every Friday, when we were a child, we'd go with our father to somebody's house and hear the uncles share the stories of the Ramayana. And we didn't really understand what was happening, only that we didn't like hot and crowded rooms. Then we grew up, left home and did other things. and periodically came back. One day, dressed in a sari, we sat on the floor of a crowded house and listened again to the old stories and understood. We finally met the material of the words. And the old stories told us to stop chasing ideas, rather to wait for them to appear. To not plan the stories we want to tell, but to find them. The ancient world is orderly, not chaotic, but its order is not imposed by humans. The true laws, ethical, aesthetic, scientific, are not imposed by any authority, above or below, but exist in things and are to be found by listening to them. In lockdown, we started walking to the river, returning to the same place day after day after day, and we found that the English name of the river translates as darkness in Sanskrit, the taboo of the black waters. Without knowing it, we had crossed darkness again, from black water to black water. And like all rivers, the water lines keep shifting, tugged by the moon. All the bridges jut into mid-air. At first, working with objects was a need to feel less vulnerable, less exposed. The weight of large branches across our body, their skin, their associations, images, stories, gave us courage and direction. The branches spoke to us in the language of elves. Our whole body and the branches formed an alliance. And one day, we crawled right to the edge of the bow, and there she was, a huge pink floating object, a navigation, a beacon, a signal, anchored to the secret life of our body. Together we drifted. The life buoy was like a lifeline, so that loneliness no longer felt like loneliness, and the act of dancing no longer seemed like something willed, but discovered. This is the gift we give to things, the gift of dragging her to a safe place. And her gift to us? The sea. The sea. Is it time yet for another coffee? This brass coffee pot has 3 parts. 1, the sign of the lion. 2, the missionaries and their superior quality of cognac. 3, the Bank of London. Like the British, the French extended their influence by taking advantage of mutual discord among Indian rulers. The ideal war and the ideal victory reimagined. Silver, mercury, copper, gold, iron, tin, and lead. Our very bodies are compounds of these metals. That is to say, we sing the same song. The photo album that contains black and white photos of our grandparents is not fancy, but it is precious. We are the keepers of the old stories now. A magic mirror that mirrors other people's lives, but also our very own. A mobile archive, announcing our place in the family of things. A hammer, an axe, a spear, a sword, a shield, a coin, a pot, a flagon, a plough, a pipe, a cup, a mask, a helmet, a compass, a tile, a vase, a wheel, a drum, a chain, a tea set, a thread, a puppet, a net, a tablet, a basket, a chariot, a flute, a lock, a clock, a ladder, a lamp, a carpet, a broom, a cradle, a coffin is what makes us human. All that's left of the old world are small souvenirs, exactly the kind of thing one finds in a sailor's home. The souvenir of Casablanca, the souvenir of Singapore. How many homes are souvenirs of boats, until the point when, falling down, they become boats themselves? There and back, there and back. We return to the same places, to move, to observe, to listen, to collect, and to recollect. We come to know this place, and this place comes to know us. To keep dancing, one needs an open heart, a strong imagination, and a good memory. Sometimes we think about the other kinds of lives we might have led. Becoming a school teacher or running a farm. For if we'd grown up in the country we were born in, we would not be the person that we are now. At most, we would have been a lawyer or a diplomat's wife. At most, we would have had many children. Life would have been tiring, communal, joyful, solemn, bogged down by bureaucracy, red tape, civil war, economic instability, and corruption. But for the decision to migrate, we would not have become artists. That move, in so many ways, was outside our control. Gifted to us by migration, by journeying west. And the opposite is also true. For we are not whole anymore, held together in line and lineage, but fragmented. And it's not the other life we might have lived that's the fantasy, but the one we are actually living. Because we remember that something very different could have happened. And even though, most of the time, we still find ourselves to be the darkest body in the room. It's ridiculous and amazing and important that we get to do this work. That we get to do this work. Because, as a child, we didn't know contemporary dance existed.